The Party That Never Ended. By Anna von Black. Everyone at the New Year's party seemed too perfect, almost like they weren't real. The invitation arrived 2 weeks before New Year's Eve. It was elegant, golden lettering embossed on black cardstock, promising an unforgettable evening at the Gladstone estate, an opulent mansion I'd only ever heard about in local ghost stories. The Gladstone estate had been abandoned for decades, perched on the edge of town like a dark sentinel. It was said to be cursed, though no one could agree on the details. Some said the original owners vanished without a trace, while others claimed to hear faint music lingering through the empty halls late at night. Despite the whispers, the invitation was too intriguing to resist. My best friend Lily and I decided to go. We figured it had to be a prank, but we weren't about to pass up the chance to explore the legendary house. When New Year's Eve came, we drove through the winding forest road to the estate. Snow blanketed the ground, muffling the sound of our footsteps as we climbed the wide marble steps to the front door. It swung open before we could knock, revealing a grand entryway lit by hundreds of flickering candles. "Welcome," said a man in a crisp black suit, his voice smooth and warm. "We've been expecting you." Lily and I exchanged a look. "Who's are we?" I asked, but the man only smiled and gestured for us to enter. The party was breathtaking. The ballroom glimmered with golden chandeliers, and the air was thick with the hum of conversation. The guests were stunning, dressed in gowns and tuxedos that looked like they belonged in another era. Everyone was impossibly beautiful, their skin flawless, their smiles dazzling. But something felt off. "Is it just me, or is everyone here too perfect?" Lily whispered. I nodded, glancing around. The guests didn't seem to move naturally. Their laughter came a beat too late, their smiles lingered a little too long. And no matter where I looked, their eyes never quite met mine. At midnight, the music stopped abruptly. The guests turned as one to face the grand staircase, where the man who had greeted us now stood with a crystal goblet in hand. "Happy New Year," he announced, his voice echoing through the room. The crowd erupted into cheers, but their movements were strange, stiff and mechanical, like actors in a poorly rehearsed play. I nudged Lily. "We should leave," I whispered. She nodded, but when we turned toward the door, we found it was gone. Where the grand entryway had been was now a blank wall. "This has to be a joke," Lily said, her voice shaking. We tried the windows next, but they wouldn't budge. The glass was cold to the touch, almost as if it wasn't glass at all but something harder, impenetrable. Panic began to set in. "Excuse me," I said, grabbing the arm of a nearby guest. "How do we get out of here?" The woman turned to me, her expression blank. Then she smiled, wide and unnatural. "You don't," she said. Before I could respond, the lights flickered. The candles dimmed, casting long shadows across the room. The guests stopped moving, their heads snapping toward the staircase. The man in the black suit descended slowly, his smile growing wider with each step. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "The time has come to welcome our newest guests." The room erupted into chaos. The guests weren't human anymore, or maybe they never had been. Their perfect faces began to crack, revealing hollow eyes and jagged teeth. Their laughter turned to shrieks, and they began to swarm toward us. Lily screamed, and I grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the back of the room. We found a door and threw it open, stumbling into a dark hallway. The music was still playing, distorted and eerie, as if it were coming from somewhere deep below us. We ran, our footsteps echoing in the endless halls. Every door we opened led to another room filled with the same golden chandeliers and faceless guests. It was as if the mansion were alive, shifting and twisting to keep us trapped. Finally, we burst into a small study lined with ancient books. The door slammed shut behind us, and the noise outside faded. "What is this place?" Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face. I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that we couldn't stay. I searched the room desperately, my eyes landing on a cracked mirror hanging above the fireplace. Something about it felt wrong. Its surface shimmered unnaturally, like water rippling in the wind. "Help me move this," I said, tugging at the mirror. Together, we lifted it from the wall, revealing a small passageway behind it. Without hesitation, we climbed through, emerging into a narrow tunnel that sloped downward. The further we went, the colder it became. Frost coated the walls, and our breath came out in visible puffs. The sound of the party faded entirely, replaced by an ear-piercing silence. At the end of the tunnel, we found a heavy wooden door. I pushed it open, and we stepped into what looked like a crypt. Rows of stone coffins lined the walls, each one marked with a name. "What is this place?" Lily asked again, her voice just shy of a whisper. Before I could answer, I saw it, a coffin with my name carved into the lid. I stumbled back, my heart racing. This can't be real. But it was. Each coffin bore the name of one of the guests at the party. And when I turned to look at Lily, she was staring at her own name etched into the stone. "We have to get out of here," I said, grabbing her arm. But the door we'd entered through was gone. The last thing I remember is the sound of laughter, low and mocking, echoing through the crypt. When I woke up, I was back in the ballroom, dressed in a gown I didn't recognize. The guests were mingling and enjoying themselves as if nothing had happened, their faces perfect and empty. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Now, I stand at the edge of the party, watching as new guests arrive. Their eyes are wide with wonder, their faces lit with excitement. I want to warn them, to tell them to run, but I can't. I'm part of the party now. And the party never ends.